Hello, Internet. Allow me to show you the town of Sunville, where a young boy named Henry lives. Here he is, about to play and talk about the wide variety of SpongeBob SquarePants video games.
I'm not ready.
Of all the cartoons that have aired on TV, very few have reached the cultural impact that SpongeBob SquarePants has. It's incredible how such a simple concept captured the imagination and hearts of so many kids and adults alike. Sure, the quality of the series has been a bit all over the place since the first movie, but those initial 3 seasons set the groundwork for a franchise that's still going strong across every possible market you could think of. You've got plenty of toys, comic books, board games, you name it, they put this yellow sponge on it. Occasionally, they even collaborated with fast food restaurants, with the results being divisive to say the least.
Like many other franchises that existed from the 80s to the 2000s, this pretty much always included video games. But with one as big as SpongeBob, there's a wide variety to choose from. So, are you ready, kids?
To start off, the first SpongeBob game we ever got was Legend of the Lost Spatula on the Game Boy Color. Already it seems like we're off to a good start, being able to explore Bikini Bottom with an art style reminiscent of Season 1. Unfortunately, it starts to fall apart once you actually play it. It's pretty hard to see where you're going, and you have to use the menu a lot to swap items. It made sense with the hardware limitations, but I'd only recommend this for history. The same applies to Operation Krabby Patty, the first PC game in the series. The cutscenes are potentially an interesting time capsule, but the game is fairly awkward to control with how the mouse works. I thought I'd enjoy Super Sponge a bit more, and the health system was a lot more generous, but it still feels pretty clunky to control. There are a bunch of items that require 2 action buttons, and I swear the reef blower just doesn't work.
To be fair, this was the first year that any games were made for SpongeBob. Hopefully they'll find their footing pretty soon.
Here we have the point-and-click adventure game Employee of the Month. Sure, it's no Monkey Island, but there's a lot of attention to detail, it's fully voiced, and there's so many areas of Bikini Bottom to explore, which is more than what I can say for Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Even with this being the first SpongeBob 3D platformer, it feels so empty, and it's not very exciting or rewarding to complete the few objectives available.
And I don't know what changed from this game to the next one, but I can say that it was a change for the better.
Because of all the games we've seen so far, Battle for Bikini Bottom is one of the best. You've got 3 playable characters that all feel solid to control in a big collectathon platformer, a genre that was falling out of style at the time. There was so much care put into not only the gameplay, but every little detail of SpongeBob's world. Everything from jellyfish fields to downtown was painstakingly recreated. This was one of the greatest licensed games of its time. And hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just a year later, they reused the engine to make a tie-in to the SpongeBob movie, with completely unique locations that you traverse in a more linear fashion than Battle for Bikini Bottom. It might not be as polished, the cutscenes are mostly still frames from the movie, and you'll often have to replay levels to get the necessary coins to progress, but for a game that released less than a year after the last one, it's impressive.
So far all of these have been single-player games. What can SpongeBob offer to players who aren't lonely?
Lights, Camera, Pants seems like a fairly basic Mario Party clone at first, but I really appreciate the theming it went with. Each minigame is an audition, and the winning character appears in scenes as the character they tried out for. There was also another dedicated handheld game this year, The Yellow Avenger on DS. It's a pretty bare-bones 2.5D platformer with a bunch of touchscreen-based minigames, more or less what you'd expect for the platform. What I didn't expect was how much of a downgrade Creature from the Krusty Krab would be. They threw so many ideas at the wall, but they're all underbaked, and the gameplay pales in comparison to Battle and Movie. But the next game, Atlantis SquarePantis, felt like they weren't even trying. Every level functions, I suppose, but it feels like the bare minimum necessary to say that the product they're selling is, in fact, a video game.
Whew, I got pretty heated there. I should take a break, maybe draw something.
Alright, this is a nice change of pace. I've always liked Drawn to Life, and this takes it into Bikini Bottom, so if you've ever wanted to see your art in SpongeBob's world, this is the game for you. While not being licensed, the next DS game was also heavily based on another, this time being Cooking Mama. I might not personally enjoy the touchscreen usage as much, but this is the perfect game genre for SpongeBob. After this, the team behind Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game returned for Truth or Square, but it doesn't really reach the heights of those two. There's also motion controls in the Wii version, and they're a real workout.
By this point, we weren't really getting licensed kids games like we used to. Games were becoming bigger and more expensive, and you couldn't easily squirt one out anymore.
SpongeBob SquigglePants was actually a lot of fun, basically a WarioWare game in Bikini Bottom. Each level has its own theme and art style, and it was really cool to see Patchy the Pirate in one of these games. But then you have Plankton's Robotic Revenge and Hero Pants, the first movie tie-in in over a decade. I guess I appreciate the variety of playable characters, but the gameplay is so basic it almost feels unfinished.
You'd think they would stop making SpongeBob games at this point, and for 5 years they pretty much did, but then out of nowhere they decided to come back out with some really solid ones.
Not only did they remake Battle for Bikini Bottom, they came out with 2 really good sequels in a pretty short time frame with surprisingly in-depth gameplay. I'd argue that this is some of the best material the modern franchise has to offer. There's just so much to talk about here, I'd barely scratched the surface. You've got handheld versions of the console games, various mobile, flash, and plug-and-play games, the crossovers with other shows, it just never ends.
I don't get it. So many animated shows would have 1 or maybe 2 games to their name. Why are there so many Sponge games? Oh right, money.